To go live. Hello. Hello. I don't know if anybody can see me. It was just telling me that we failed to go live, which is very strange. So I don't know. I don't even know if we're broadcasting. Maybe we are. Maybe we aren't. I don't know. Oh, okay. Maybe we are. Okay. Looks like we might be. Cool. Hello, everybody. I'm just trying to get my screen set up. And my screen over here set up. And then we'll be good to start. 2 people are watching. That's cool. Hello. Say hello in the chat over there. That way I know who it is who's watching. Chat over there. Oh, hello. Don't want sound on this. There we go. Put that over onto live chat. All right. Hello. Only 4 people here. All right. Say hello in the chat over there, folks, so that I know who you are. Chris is here. Good to see you, Chris. Hello. People are starting to file in. Excellent. Fantastic. Billy Morgan. I don't think I've seen you on my streams before, but hello to you. Thanks for coming. Beatrice, of course, is here. She is always here, and she is awesome. So thank you for being awesome. It's good to see that some of my regulars are here already, which is great. That's what I like to see. I'm running a little late. I'm not quite entirely 100% set up yet. I'm still trying to just sort stuff out in this room. My kids have been in here, and they've left quite a mess. But there we go. Beatrice is the hot chick of the class. Yeah. I think she probably is, actually. She might be the only chick of the class as it goes. Don't think we have any other girls in the class. Ladies, women, don't think so. I think Beatrice is our lone female, which is very cool. So we got 7 people watching, and 4 people have commented so far to say hello. Come on in, folks. Come and join the show. We'll get started. As soon as we've got a few more people in here, we will actually get started. And you can see that by the title of the show, I've called it 10,000 Hours and Forevermore, which is a bit of a lame title. I know. But there is a reason behind this title, which I will get to once we've got a few more people in. Yeah, that's why it says Beatrice. Skip, you're here. Good to see you, Skip. Hello, buddy. And he's waving. Thank you, mate. I'm waving right back. And my good buddy Mike Neighbor is here. Good to see you, mate. And we've got 8 people. People are still coming in. Good. Come on in, folks, and make yourselves comfortable. For the next more or less hour, we will talk all things music production from start to finish, music production. So we will talk songwriting, arranging, recording, mixing, mastering, getting your work out there to the world, which is the most important thing. Chris says, Mike, what happened to Priest? Yes, I heard there was a Judas Priest show tonight. So I think some people who would normally be here are at that show tonight. I'm not a Judas Priest fan, I will admit, but I'm not really into that kind of style of music particularly. But all music has its merits. Providing it is musical, it has merit. So, yeah. So we're going to get to the subject for this evening, 10,000 Hours and Forevermore. In a moment, I've kind of nicked that title from the line of a hymn, which talks about 10,000 years and then forevermore, which is talking about being in heaven, being in a... Oh, good grief, what was that? Just one second. Ow. Harry, was that you up here? In the hallway? Okay. Okay, we're just going to scratching out here. Scratching? Yeah, and then I heard that. Okay. Just start with the show as well. What? Yeah. Maybe we try to get in and then around to the corner. Okay. Yeah, sorry about that, folks. I do apologize. We've only got 8 people in the house, which is a little less than we normally have, but that's okay. Sorry about that small delay. We just heard a bit of a weird sound next door, and my wife was in the hallway there, so I just wanted to find out what's going on. It took me by surprise. But we're okay. So who we got? We have... oh, Just Bob was going to the Judas Priest show. That's right. Yeah, he said earlier to me that he was not going to be there. He was not going to be here, rather. Bobby Booth has just arrived. Now we can start. Now that Bobby is here, we can start. Deirdre says, tell us all how you feel now that you are a celebrity, being on the radio and all. Yes, I have been on a fantastic radio station based out in Jacksonville. I have no idea exactly where Jacksonville is, but they broadcast internationally via a website called Radio Waves, which is very cool. And I was featured on a show called Memory Lane, which I've posted all over Facebook about because I've been really excited about it, and up on my website as well. And I intend to actually, for those of you that didn't get to hear it, yeah, Florida. Yeah, I think it's out that way. Yeah, you're probably right, guys. Now that the show has been broadcast, for those of you that weren't able to catch it, particularly if you're on this side of the pond, I'm going to edit out the bits of the show that I can't broadcast for copyright reasons, such as the music of George Duke and Bob James and guys like that, whose music was on the show. I'm going to have to edit those bits out, but I'll keep all the interview stuff and my songs as well. And I'm going to put the show up on my website over at jonnylipshamstudios.co.uk. And I may well stick it up on SoundCloud as well. And just cut out all the bits of the show that are copyrighted so that neither myself nor Tony get into trouble. So Mike says, I heard some of it. JG was on real late. Yeah, he was. He decided to have a bit of a longer run, which is fine. But I believe it's being rebroadcast, or it was being rebroadcast this afternoon, I believe. But Anthony Hall, who very generously let me come on the show, tells me that the show was really, really popular. It was a big hit, apparently. He's very excited. So excited is he that he told me that there's another radio station that's interested in carrying this particular show, which is very cool. So that's very exciting. So it means a bigger audience for me, a bigger audience for him, and for his radio station, which is very cool. And hopefully it generates some interest in my music, which is something nice because, you know, I have a bit of a niche audience. It's not going to be, you know, my audience is never going to be particularly massive, but I don't think anyway. I'd be quite surprised if it's massive, but yeah, so hopefully some more sales will ensue and some more people will go and get it. Go and get my EP from 2016. I am working on a new one, by the way, guys. Working on a new EP. I don't know exactly when that's going to be out because we've got moving and all of that to take care of. So I'm hoping that I can get it finished up before the end of this year, so that I actually have an EP out in 2018. Excuse me. Bobby Booth said, I didn't get to hear it due to wife was in hospital this past week. Well, I'm really sorry to hear that, Bobby, that your wife has been in hospital. That sucks. That's really bad. And I'm sorry about that, and I'm sure it's been a very stressful time for you, so don't worry at all about it. Like I said, I'm gonna put the show up for a good while. I've got Anthony's permission to do it, so I'm gonna put it up on my website, and we'll have it as a featured post up there, and I'll put it on the Jonny Lipsham Studios Facebook page. If you have not liked that, go and like that, and you'll be able to see that up there when I put it up. And I'll put it up on SoundCloud as well, so you'll be able to go see it up there as well. So that would be what I'm aiming to do with that this weekend. Well, what's left of this weekend, because it's now midnight. It's now Monday morning here. So basically tomorrow I have 2 jobs to do, and one of which is editing that show and getting it uploaded to the website. So have we got a place yet? Okay, this is the other thing I was going to come on to, because I'm sure you guys all want to know, and I want to say a really big thank you, actually, for everybody's contributions to the GoFundMe page that Mike set up. Thank you so much, Mike, for doing that. It was incredibly generous of you to have put all of your effort into that, and to getting that going and organizing it. Thank you so much for that, and thank you everybody who donated, however small or large your contributions were. You thoroughly blessed the socks off me and my family, and you've made things a lot easier, and there's a lot less for us to worry about now, such as deposits, such as, you know, hiring vans and you know, getting all the stuff we need to get for moving, that kind of stuff. So we've got a good budget, which is great. So we're really pleased and relieved, actually, that it's going to make us moving much better, much quicker, much more efficient. So yes, over £800. In fact, £887 to be exact, which is $1,300, which is extraordinary, because we raised that only in a matter of a few days. It didn't take long at all. So I'm very overwhelmed and amazed at how much was raised and how quickly it was raised. So thank you so much, guys. So we have been looking at a property which is not very far from us. It's just down the road from us, and it's actually although it's down the road, it's more or less the same distance away from the kids' school. So that makes things better for them, makes things better for us. It means that we're not having to get the kids out of school and get them into a new school, and all of the expense that goes with that, and all of the stress and hassle that goes with that. So we've not got it yet, but we have been shortlisted. And there was quite a lot of interest in this property because the location of it is really, really good. And it's a 3-bedroom place. The master bedroom is massive. It's huge. And we, being generous parents that we are, have donated that to our kids so that they can share a nice big spacious room together and have plenty of space each, and we can partition the room really nicely. And that means that I will still have a studio space. It will actually be a bit bigger than this. Not massively bigger than this, but it will be bigger than this. The only thing I'm going to have to contend with is that some of the placement, well, the placement, where the windows are positioned is not necessarily going to be ideal acoustically. So there's going to be some fudging and improvising to be done. And we are looking to be there for the next maybe 18 months or 2 years. And then we will be hopefully working towards, you know, being able to purchase a place of our own, which would be wonderful if we could do that. So that's kind of the plan, really, is that it's a little step up and hopefully a little step forward towards that much bigger goal, which is being able to purchase our own house, because the housing market sucks in the UK. It's horrendous. We are way priced outside of it at the moment, and a lot of people are in the UK. So the rental market is massive. Lots of people are renting, and lots of people are actually struggling to make rents because rents are going up and up and up, because it's the property rental industry in Britain is pretty much unregulated by and largely. unless you go through a letting agent, and the letting agent always takes a cut. So if you want to avoid the letting agent taking a cut, then you're going through a private landlord, and private landlords are just not watched, not monitored, not regulated at all, so they can charge as much as they want rent-wise. So it's a tough one at the moment in the UK for having a place to live. So, but yeah, so we've not got the place yet, but we are shortlisted for it, which means I think there's only 2 interested parties now. So there's us and one other interested party. So sounds more like bloodletting. Yeah, pretty much. It's an extremely competitive market, shall we say. And a lot of people are doing, dodgy and underhanded things to try and secure a rental property. They're basically saying, look, we can give you £200 right now if you'll let us have the place, and stuff like that. We can't do that kind of thing. And neither do we think it's particularly ethical. But there you go. Deer Creek is here. He says, can't stay long, but had to say hi. Thank you so much. And he says, enjoyed the chat the other day. Hope all is well. Yeah, thank you very much, mate. And thank you for stopping by. However short time you're here, I appreciate you being here. We have 12 people here now. So I've kind of talked a little bit about the housing situation. We've moved forward a little bit. I see chin beard. No, you see laziness is what you see. You see the fact that I am working on multiple client projects at the moment to try and get everything out of the way before we move. I want to have a clear desk before we move. So, and I hate this. And to be honest, this only takes me about 2 days. Believe it or not, a beard like this takes 2 days for me to grow. Next to no time. I generally speaking have to shave twice a day. So Chris is waving at you. Anyway, Chris Beebe is waving at you, Chris Howard. All right. So the subject for tonight is 10,000 hours and forevermore. What do I mean by that? Well, I am talking about investing in yourself and investing in your skills, investing in your craft, and putting in the supposed 10,000 hours, by which it is supposed that you gain mastery over a particular thing, a particular subject. So, for example, if you want to master pitching a knuckleball, if you're into baseball, then you've got to put in 10,000 hours of pitching a knuckleball until you actually have it nailed with accuracy, fluency, and the whole thing is completely natural. Steve Greenwood is here. He says, I'm in the middle of a tracking session. Just want to say hello and I'll catch replay. Thanks, buddy. Good to see you. Thanks for stopping by. Appreciate it. I really appreciate the fact that some people are working tonight and still they take a little break and they drop in to say hi. That's very, very cool. And I appreciate it very much. So if you want to get really, really good at what you're doing, you need to put in a lot of work and a lot of effort. Deer Creek says, I'm going to pre-guess, practice 10,000 to get good, or 8 hours a day for a couple of years. It doesn't really matter how long it takes you to get to those 10,000 hours. I think the principle here is to do with working hard and developing a good work ethic and developing a regime, a disciplined regime for working and honing your craft. And I don't just mean, kind of like working compressors and EQs day in, day out, all the time until you get sick of it. Because that's kind of what I would call parrot fashion learning, where you watch something and then you copy it and you just do it because you've seen other people do it. You do it because you've seen somebody else do it. You high pass filter everything because somebody has told you to high pass filter something. That's not what I'm talking about. As much as there is a lot of great education out there on YouTube and on the internet, hey, I'm an educator. It's one of my main passions in life is educating. And so I'm doing this as well, and my good close friend Joe Gilder, Graham Cochran, Johnny Gibe, Dave Vignola, the guys at Pro Audio, Um, my other very good friend, Warren Hewitt, we're all doing the same thing. We're all educating. But I think the thing we all have to be careful about is how we teach what we teach, to make sure that you guys learn the right things and to make sure that we learn the right things as well. So, we're talking about not just doing something repetitively until you're sick of it. And, I think when you're learning a musical instrument, a lot of the teaching you get is practice your scales, and just do that until you're sick to death of it, bored of it. No, that's not how you learn an instrument. That's how you learn a scale. And that's how you learn to play the scale with ridiculous technical proficiency. There's a lot of great piano players out there who are remarkably technical and phenomenally proficient technically. They have wonderful fingers. Their fingers are like, tarantulas across the keyboard, silky, smooth, glorious to watch. It's like, their fingers are ballet dancing across the keys. And it looks great. It looks wonderful. But it doesn't sound wonderful. It doesn't sound musical. It doesn't sound like there's any passion or any emotion being conveyed from the top down through the fingers into the piano and out into the listener's ear. So you can drill something, you can drill a routine for 10,000 hours, but all you'll get good at is drilling that particular routine, that particular problem. What I'm talking about is developing not just your skills, but a sense of musicality to go with it. So if you're a mixing engineer, don't just learn EQ and compression. Learn what EQ and compression does to music. Learn what EQ and compression doesn't just do to a snare drum, doesn't just do to a kick drum, doesn't just do to a vocal, but learn what EQ and compression do to the sound of the music and the way the music feels in here. So you're mixing not just with your ears, not just with your eyes, not just with your fingers on the faders and the knobs and everything else, but you're mixing with here. You're mixing with what feels good here in your heart, not just what sounds good, but what feels good. If it makes you move, if it moves you, if there's emotion to your mix, you've nailed it. Now, if that means the EQ curves are all over the place and compression is all over the place, does it matter? No. Doesn't. Really doesn't matter. Chris says 1, 3, 2, 4, 3, 5, 4, 6, 5, 7. Yeah, that's how you do the alternate fingering. Yeah, I've not done that in years. And all of that. So you're kind of like missing those, and you're doing a C major scale like that. I've not done those in years, and to be honest, never really had a particular interest in them. I'm much more interested in learning how to improvise, much more interested in learning about how harmony works. Bobby Booth says lots of musicians never learn scales. That's absolutely right. Lots of musicians never had. Lots of musicians have no idea how to identify a chord. They'll play the most incredibly complex voicings on the guitar, but they have no idea what they're doing. As far as they're concerned, it just sounds good. So they play it, and it feels good. It sounds good. They make great music as a result. But they know the scales. They know the chord changes, but they know them instinctively because they know what feels good and what sounds good. Can they identify it? Probably not. Does that really matter? No. Most important thing is the music and how it feels. What does it do to your audience? Does it engage your audience? Does it take your audience on a journey? Deer Creek says, in a way, Coltrane hit me as that. He was far above me mentally, and it became boring after 15 minutes. You can slap me now. See, to me, Coltrane had the opposite effect upon me. I found his music profoundly emotional. Even when he was he was getting towards the end of his life, when he was exploring, the boundaries of what's possible on the tenor saxophone. and he was getting into multiply splitting the notes and all that kind of stuff that Pharoah Sanders was into and Archie Shepp was into, at the same time. And he was hearing all of that, and Sun Ra and his band, and all that free stuff. To me, a lot of that for Coltrane was all about emotion. He was trying to find something emotional in the instrument. He was trying to extract some kind of feeling, some kind of emotion out of the horn that was probably not really possible, but he darn well gave it a try. And I tell you what, the person for me that took what Coltrane did to its logical conclusion, not that I think there is such a thing as a conclusion in music in that sense, in terms of how we develop how music works, how we develop, how we evolve music, so to speak. For me, the person that really took Coltrane's music and took his technical developments and took them to the logical next step would be Michael Brecker. Michael Brecker could do what Coltrane couldn't do. Coltrane struggled to multiply split notes. Michael Brecker made it sound phenomenally easy, like it was just natural. That's how the horn is meant to be played. The horn is meant, the alto, the tenor sax rather, is meant to do that. But for me, Coltrane and Brecker have one thing in common. They are primarily emotional players. I mean, that's why Coltrane abandoned a lot of that sheets of sound stuff that he was in during the Giant Steps period, when he was playing, pretty much all the extensions possible on a particular chord before moving on to the next one, which meant he had to play incredibly fast. That really was a little bit of a technical exercise, but it's something he had to go through in order to find, once he found what was technically possible on the horn, he then tried to find out what was emotionally possible. That's for me, that's the way I kind of see it. Deirdre says, I have to see it, hands-on repetition. It is hard to find someone who's willing to work with you. I go back and watch the videos over again. That's a really great way to learn. There's a lot of people who are definitely visual learners. They have to see how it works as much as hear how it works. See, my piano teacher didn't really understand me too well, and so we didn't really have very many lessons, mostly because I just wanted to sit and watch her play. And she couldn't understand the value that had for me. I wanted to watch her improvise. I wanted to watch how she developed a melodic sequence out of the chord changes that she was playing. Whereas she wanted me to be hands-on and actually playing and actually, learning the technical exercises, because she thought that was what a piano teacher teaches. She couldn't quite understand that actually what I needed to learn was I needed to hear and I needed to see the two things in action, and I needed to see somebody do it, because that's how I memorize stuff. I have an aural memory and a photographic memory. So, I was able to hear what she was doing. I was able to see what she was doing, and then I could just sit down at the piano and I could play it. But that's how I have to learn. I don't really, and I write charts when I have to, but I don't really read music. I don't sight read. There's, my dad, he would sight read anything. If you gave him a page that has billions of notes on it, he'll sight read it in one go. I know, because I gave him some really hard charts for my EP in 2016, and he played the tenor and soprano sax parts there, and I gave him some really horrible chord changes to play over, and he just made it sound easy. So yeah, so that's kind of what I wanted to talk about, was investing time in yourself and learning, not just the technical things that we need to learn, like how a compressor works, how attack and release work, how threshold works, and how you get makeup gain working, and all of that, and an EQ, high pass filtering, notch filtering, all that kind of stuff. Those are important and they're essential. You're not really going to get good mixes without really understanding those principles. But the important thing is using those to serve the song and to make the music emotional, for emotionally engaging for the listen. So they're not just hearing the words, they're not just hearing the melody, and they're not just hearing the chord changes, they're not just hearing the nice drums and the nice bass and the nice guitars, but they're feeling it here emotionally. And I believe a really, really great mix engineer can do that. And I think that's really, as mix engineers, that's really where we should be aspiring towards. Somebody like Chris Lord-Alge or Andrew Sheps, Greg Wallace, those are people that I look up to as mix engineers who really eke out every little drop of emotion from a song. And they really aim to connect you with the song on a very, very deep level. So there you go. That's pretty much all I wanted to talk about. So I can now turn the floor over to you guys for the next 30 minutes for your questions. Dietrich says, well, I'm not learning my guitar. I think I have a fair trade in what I have learned here. Well, awesome. Good to hear. Dietrich says, yes, Coltrane was just too mentally good. As you know, analyzing his stuff on paper is just too heavy. Yeah, well, I spent 4 years doing it at university. He wasn't hitting random notes, but listening live, my brain couldn't keep up. Yeah, it takes a lot of deep listening. Bob Clearmountain is another one, actually, who can really eke out every drop of emotion from a song. Deer Creek continues, improvising at 160 BPM and not hitting any roots fifths or not playing certain intervals. Impossible enough to write, but to play live, extraordinary. Yeah. Choosing the right notes when you're improvising. 160 beats a minute is only really a moderate tempo, to be honest. I mean, for rock music, that sounds fast. That sounds like speed metal. But really for jazz, 160 beats a minute is you're not even breaking a sweat. Especially as a bass player, you're only talking about ding 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 ding. That's nothing. I could do that in my sleep. That's a nothing tempo. What I'm talking about is like ding 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 ding. That kind of a tempo, which is like that's about 320 beats a minute. Yeah, Coltrane playing 16th notes at 320 beats a minute. That's close to 1,000 notes a minute. Mike says, I just learned a few new piano chords. Awesome. He says, I learn a few new piano chords a week, then I spend the week learning how they fit into keys and how they fit together with the inversions. Mike, you are learning it exactly the right way. That's the musical approach. You don't just learn chords in isolation. I need to learn a G major chord. There it is. Root, second position. First inversion, second inversion. Great, now I can play a G major chord. No, you can't. Well, yes, you can, but can you play it in a musical context? Can you play it as a ballad? Can you play it Alberti bass style? Can you play it Son Montuno style? Can you play it funk style? Can you play it, jazz style? That's like just 6 different ways to play a G major chord. When you start getting into that, not just the keys, not just the inversions, but kind of different styles as well, then you're cooking with a G major chord. Bobby says, I'm not up there with Lord-Alge, but I think I can hold my own. Yeah, absolutely you can. And that's the kind of confidence you need to have. And that's the kind of thing you need to tell yourself. You need to tell yourself, okay, I'm aspiring to be like X mix engineer. Pick a mix engineer whose sound you really like and whose approach to mixing you really like, and go for it. Pursue that. Take some of those ideas and make them your own. That's the key. But have confidence. Have confidence in what you can do already. And therefore, you know, you have something to teach somebody else. That's all I'm doing. You know, I've learned a few things along the way in the last, 25, nearly 30 years of doing this, and I have some things to teach. But even if I've only been mixing for a week, I'm a week further along than somebody that's just picked, that's just touched the fader for the first time. I have something to teach that person. Dickery says, when your significant other likes your mixes, then you've just succeeded. Yes, too right. Absolutely. My wife is probably my toughest critic, actually, because she is a musician, but she doesn't play music professionally. She's a midwife. She's been a professional midwife for more than 20 years, but she's an extremely good flute player, and she sings. She's very talented. And she is definitely my harshest critic. You know, she'll listen to my mixes and say, that's too loud. Yeah, that's too quiet. I can't really hear that. Can't really hear the guitar too much. Or, that guitar just, there's just something there that's just really, I'm like, oh, she can hear there's a mistake in EQ there. And I can go back and listen to it and go, oh yeah, she's right. Notch. She's really good at those kind of things. All right, let's see. My neighbor says marital bliss. Yes, when you nail a mix and your wife goes, that's really good, then yes, you know it's good. Dickery says, this guy, just found him, Frog Leap Studios. Not a great player, but his productions are awesome. He has an eye for videos and a great set of ears for getting sounds and arranging. Okay, that's cool. Heavy metal covers. Oh, I think I know who you're talking about. Yeah. Dickery says, my wife says too many drums. That's the thing. If, like me, you're a drummer, you have a tendency to, make your drums sound nice and upfront. Maybe a little bit too much upfront because, it's maybe our playing and we just really like the groove we've got there and we like the ghosted notes. Sounds great. So we bring them up in the mix. Maybe that's not always applicable. Diego, I'm not even sure I've seen you in my show before, but good to see you here. If you are not new, then I'm sorry. I apologize. Diego says, can you play F major 7, E7 sharp 9, D minor? I can, yes. You want me to play that now? Is that what you're wanting? Okay. I don't normally take these kind of requests, but okay. F major 7, E7 sharp 9, D minor. There you go. You can develop that a little bit if you want. There you go. Kind of fudge that a little bit. Dickery says he's from Norway. My point is he takes what he can do and excels. Well, that's the thing. Take what you're really, really good at and then do it really, 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 really well and make something phenomenal out of it. That's what Miles Davis did. Miles Davis probably became the highest paid, most successful jazz musician in the whole history of jazz music. How did he do that? Well, for a start, he played with Charlie Parker when he was 19 years old. That's always a good place to start. You play with the greatest alto sax player of all time, and you're in his band. Dizzy Gillespie had done that. What's the difference between Dizzy Gillespie and Miles Davis? I'll tell you. Dizzy Gillespie, first-class embouchure, extreme high register playing, could play like a machine gun, was, you know, a wonderful improviser, great trumpet player, had lots of harmonic, you know, he's very harmonically daring in his approach to improvisation. He's a great trumpet player. What makes him different to Miles Davis? Miles Davis did not have a first-class embouchure. Miles Davis did not have great technique. Miles Davis would split notes a lot, and a professional trumpet player should not be splitting notes like he did. So how is it Miles Davis made himself a real big success? I'm not saying that Dizzy Gillespie wasn't, because he was, but Miles was always on the cutting edge of every new development in jazz music. And especially at the end of his life, he was, you know, he was working on the cutting edge of what would become smooth jazz eventually, unfortunately. But you know, he was kind of on the pioneering of funk. He was pioneering fusion. He was one of the first guys to bring electric instruments into jazz music. What's the difference? Yes, he could market himself. He was very good at that. Second thing is, he decided what he could do and did really, really well at it. He recognized he was not great at playing at high tempos, and he was not great at playing high register either. You know, whereas, you know, you listen to somebody like Joe Faddis, or you listen to Arturo Sandoval, or, you know, you listen to Dizzy Gillespie, and they're all extreme high register, very, very fast at very high tempos. They can all do that kind of thing. Miles Davis is very different. Miles Davis said, okay, I'm going to make the fact that I split notes, I'm going to make that my thing. I'm going to make that emotional. So he did. And he put a Harman mute in the bell of his trumpet, made his sound extra brittle. So he developed his own sound, and he excelled at playing at moderate tempos and placing each note and loading each note with a whole ton of emotion. And that's what made Miles Davis so fantastically attractive as a trumpet player. And you could overlook his technical flaws. Didn't matter. So yeah, so excel at what you are good at. What's your strength? Find your strength. Excel at it. Your weaknesses will kind of come along for the ride, and eventually some of those weaknesses will be, you know, you can make those weaknesses into part of your sound, like Miles did. Deer Creek says, extra brittle. Love the accent. Yeah, I could have said brittle. But then if I do that, I kind of sound Australian, and I don't want to sound Australian. Not quite yet. Not quite ready for Australian. Especially as some of my customers and supporters are Australian. Don't want to offend them with the accent. Did I already talk about New House? Yeah, I have. So you'll maybe have to go back and watch that section. By the way, Pete Thorne is live now, but I'm here. He talks too much about pedals. Yeah, he's a bit fanatical about those. So yeah. Okay, let's see. What else am I missing? I've got 14 people here, which is very cool. Can't you see him in an old movie playing in a piano bar? I'm not quite sure who you're talking about, Beatrice. Video. Sorry about that. John Anderson is here. He says, hey guys, sorry for being late. No problem. I had to crawl under the sink and repair a garbage disposal for the missus. And yes, the tempo was about 58. Oh, yeah. You know what? I'll let you in on a secret. I don't do repairs like that. We either hire somebody to do them, or my wife does them, because she's really talented at those kind of things. Yeah, Joe Gilder had a stream of his music the other night. That's right. He was playing some songs of his from several of his records. Joe and I are good friends. We get on pretty well. Chris says, I did have a recording question earlier in the chat. Did you? Right. Okay. I need to go find that then. Good luck with that. If I can't find it, Chris, you might have to just repost it, my friend. I know you were talking about piano technique a while back as well. Okay, you may just have to go, if you can find it, Chris, copy paste it back in the chat here. Joe Gilder, autocorrect. Okay, I'm trying to figure out what you guys are all saying here. Sorry about that. John says, what's the update on your site rollout? It's in beta at the moment. That's kind of where we're at. So, and it looks really, really, really good. It looks fantastic. I can't wait for you guys to see it. So we're working out all the bugs, all of the issues at the moment, and just making it work really well. We're testing it to extreme stress levels, and hopefully we will have a date, hopefully very soon, when we can actually roll it out, and you guys can actually enroll and become VIPs. And it'd be really great if we get a whole load of you, not just the 15 or so of you here. It'd be really great if you guys, became VIPs, but really great if we could get, quickly to a good high number of VIPs, because I have just over 1,100. I've just crossed over 1,100 YouTube subscribers. So it'd be really great if I could get a good number of my YouTube subscribers to become VIPs. If they're really, really interested in what I'm doing, then, get on and become a VIP when I roll that out. As I say, I'll have a date for that. If you are on my email list, you will get advance notice of that. I will get an email out to all of you, letting you know when that is going to happen. So yeah, if you're not on my email list, go sign up below in the description. There's a link there. Go follow that link and get yourself signed up. Mike says, click the thumbs up, folks. Yes, please do. We've got 16 people watching and 7 likes. So it'd be really great if we could get that up to a little bit more, like 15 or 16. That'd be cool. Okay, Chris has his question. He says, I want to make a sample, a WAV sample. I made tempo mapped edits. Is there a way to make all these edits 125 beats a minute? I made tempo mapped edits. Is there a way to make all the edits 100? Well, if that's the tempo of your session, Chris, then you probably want to time stretch them. So yeah, if you select the event, go to the inspector and use the drop down thing there. It normally defaults to follow, but if you change that to time stretch, it should then stretch that to the tempo of your session. So if your session is 125 beats a minute, then those samples should stretch that tempo. So I hope that helps. Deer Creek says, I get my meat from JL and JG on Studio One. Oh, that's cool. Thanks for that. Deer Creek says, I found subscribers versus views isn't really linked, like YouTube might say. Guild has 55,000 subscribers, but only 45 watching his shows. Yeah, it's true. It's true. Certainly in terms of live streams are great, but really in terms of an actual percentage of your subscriber base, it's very, very low. Yeah, it's just the way it is, unfortunately. Live streaming just doesn't really seem to be necessarily as popular as it could be, especially when doing it this way, with the way I'm doing it with Google Hangouts at the moment. So yeah, let me know, folks, as I always say, if the video and audio quality is good. Chris says, actually, your ratio is much better. Really? Well, I have 1,100 subscribers and only 15 people watching right now. So yeah, it's a tiny percent. But yeah, likes are a good thing. Hitting the like button is a good thing, because that that helps improve where my channel positions on the YouTube ranking, which means when it's nearer to the top, more people are going to go to the YouTube homepage, and it's more likely to show up amongst their recommended list, and they're more likely to click on it there if they see my video, my streams, or one of my videos recommended. I mean, a lot of my non-streamed videos, like my 3.5 series videos or my Studio One from scratch series, I get a lot of views on those. Like as I say, I only have 1,100 subscribers, but my Studio One 3.5 series has been incredibly popular. I've had like over 7,000 views, nearly 10,000 views on some of those videos. My my Studio One 3.0, when that released in 2015, I did a review video of it. It's rubbish. It's not a very good video at all compared to my ones now. It's awful. But that's had like 17,000 and still going views. It still regularly gets maybe 40, 50 plays a day. I don't know why, but it does. You know, I think my 3.5 series is much better. You know, better quality. I'm better at doing videos than I was back then. I was, you know, that was like one of my first, it wasn't my first video, but it was like, I maybe only made like half a dozen videos at that point. John Anderson says, can I ask, how do you like mixing on the Series 3, the Studio Live Series 316? Joe Gilder made a surprise comment that he loved having the Series 3 in the studio, but not for mixing. Well, Joe's entitled to his opinion. I think the problem that Joe has had is he's had a problem with DAW mode on his mixer, and I think it's to do with the firmware and how he has gone about updating the firmware. Actually, I have been. I'll let you in on a secret. I've been you know, before DAW mode was released into public beta, I was able to test it, and it's really, really cool. It's fantastic. I really don't think I would like to go back to mixing with a mouse and just my single fader port, which is what I was doing before. You know, if you were to look at my hands on the desk, this is how it was. Mouse, fader port, mouse, fader port. That's how I did my mixing. But now, because I have my 16 faders in front of me, I'm, you know, pushing the faders up, moving them this way, that. I can select multiple channels at once with, like, if I wanted to select, say I've got 4 backing vocal parts and I want to solo them, I just press 4 fingers down on the solo buttons on those channels and they're soloed. Those four channels, just like that. And then to release them, boink, done, easy. And, you know, the same if I'm, you know, when I've got plugins open on my Studio One screen, you know, I'm turning the knobs on the encoder up here, which you can't see. But, you know, it's so much better. Personally, for me, it's much better, much more intuitive than, you know, dragging something in with a, I mean, you still have to kind of drag things in with the mouse, but, you know, kind of like using the mouse to control the knobs on the compressor. Okay, that's fine, but it's much more fun using the encoders. It's much more physical for me. I can turn this knob this way, and it changes the threshold here. You know, it's great. I love it. So I find it much more intuitive actually being able to turn, you know, the encoder knobs or press a button for the gate, press this for the compressor, push these faders up. If I wanted to ride automation on drums, if I want the drums just to come up like 2 dB in the chorus, that's dead easy. I can just go doink, push them up, and then bring them back down again. Simple as that. So there you go, John. I hope that answers that question. Deer Creek says YouTube uses that stuff for analyzing what to recommend, etc., for gaining views and subscribers. Doesn't do much, in my opinion. Well, you know what? Here's the thing, Deer Creek. When I started doing my Studio One 3.5 series, when Studio One 3.5 launched, I started doing that series. My viewership jumped astronomically. Prior to that, I was getting maybe half a dozen views a week. Maybe a dozen views on a really good week. In a week, 12 actual views in a week. In my statistics, I had 120 subscribers. And nothing much was really happening. I started that series and suddenly I went from 16 views per week to 500, 600 views per week. And then for a while, last last year, a little bit earlier last year, it was 500-600 views per day. And it was all because of that series. That series really, really took off. And suddenly my subscribership has gone from 116 to 1,109, I think it is now. Let me see. Is it going to tell me here? No, it's not going to tell me here. Yeah, I've got like I've gone like 1,000 more subscribers since Studio One 3.5. And, you know, think of it. We're now on Studio One 3.5.6. So not very long, not a very long time at all. And that's all from that series. That series was the catalyst. So it does do a lot more than you think, Dear Creek. You have to find something that people are going to be really interested in. And then when you find it, you just make videos along those lines. That's what I learned from doing that series. People are really interested to find out what the features are in a new version of Studio One. So that was it. I made those videos, and people still watch them. My Studio One from scratch series, you know, aimed deliberately at people who have never touched a DAW in their lives, gets lots of views. You know, I just looked today. I've had 500 views just today. Just like, what? And it's just all on that series. Not many people watch my live streams live, but after the fact, a lot of people watch them. I get 50, 60, 70 views in sort of like the couple of hours after. So a lot of people watch the replays. They don't necessarily come live like you guys have. But yeah, it does a lot more than you think, Deer Creek, to be honest. Let's see. Deer Creek says, honestly, I think Gilder isn't up to spec on using stuff. He knows what he needs to know. Worked at Sweetwater, but I don't think he can dive as deep into stuff as me and Johnny Guy do. Well, you know what? Joe is very, very good at what Joe does. And Joe knows an awful lot about mixing, and he knows an awful lot about making very good music. And, you know, he maybe doesn't dive in as deep to stuff as me and Johnny do, but really, I mean, his remit's slightly different to ours. You know, his niche is different to ours. Mine and Johnny's very different to Joe's. So, you know, Joe is very good at his niche. I hope that me and Johnny and Dave Vignola and others, I hope that we're just as good as our particular niche. It's all different. It's a different niche. You just have to find what's going to work for you, and that comes with a lot of trial and error. I mean, I started doing a series on what was it? The Power Of series is meant to be a songwriting series. So I did the Power of the Key Change, the Power of the Intro. I think Power of the Key Change was a 2-part one, because I did Power of the Key Change for major keys, Power of Key Change for minor keys, and I did the Power of the Intro. And I kind of stopped that series because it hardly got any interest at all. Hardly any viewers. And I thought, this is a songwriting course. People are going to love this. People are going to dig this. They didn't. So I stopped. And that's fine. You know, I moved on to something else. And, you know, those other things are getting a lot more views. Dickory says, I had a Goofy Bandlag Cakewalk video 4 days ago. Already 4,500 views. Exactly. You know, Cakewalk is back in the news again. So people are going to be interested in that. They're going to be interested to see videos on the new BandLab version of Cakewalk. So absolutely, go crazy. Make a lot of videos on that would be my view. If you've got 4,500 views already in 4 days, that's amazing. That's 1,000 views a day. Good grief. Are you kidding? That's what you got to do. You got to find that niche and then mine it until it's exhausted, and then you find the next one. Decrease says, I agree. I thought our guy was good, but he should watch the streams. Decrease says, lots of Presonus users that shows you in the company, that shows you the company depth of interest. Yeah. Let's see. John says, great. Just was looking for some feedback since now people are starting to use the Series 3 consoles. Do you have any thoughts on the 16 versus the 24 now you're up and running? Well, I don't have the 24. I don't have any experience of it, but you know, essentially they are the same thing. It's just the 24 has more faders. but essentially they're the same thing. The other thing that the 24 has is that the 16 doesn't have is it has those 8 user buttons, which you can assign. So like if you want to have a button for saving your song, you can just hit that button. You can assign it. You can assign those buttons to anything. They're really, really good. They're really useful. The 16 doesn't have those, unfortunately, which is a shame, but it is what it is. It's a smaller footprint. So where are they going to put those 8 user buttons on the 16? There's no room for them. So I guess they just kind of like had to dispense with them. Dickory says, I don't have a live mixer, but if you don't need the preamps, I'd get a fader port 16, as I think it has more depth than the mixer. I actually disagree. I think you can dive in deeper with the Series 3 mixers than you can with the fader port 16. Not to say that fader port 16 is a bad product, because it isn't. If really you're not going to use the Series 3 as an interface at any time at all, or you have no intention of ever taking it live on a gig, then yeah, possibly the fader port 16 is the one for you, because it is just literally just a control surface. Whereas the Series 3, you can use this guy as an interface. Eventually when 44.1 sample rate is available for the Series 3, I will be shifting over to this as my interface of choice. I'm going to be hopefully testing 1 or 2 other things as well. So I'm really looking forward to being able to get into that aspect of this unit, because I've hardly really touched the surface of the Series 3 as an interface. I've kind of really tested it to death as a control surface. And as a control surface, it is, my opinion, better than the fader port 16 and the fader port 8. That's just my opinion. But yeah, I really am looking forward to diving in and getting into, using this as an interface. I mean, I can, the cool thing is, if I've got my live mic running through this, like Jonny has his running through his Series 3 mixer, making videos would be great, because I can use the EQ and the compression on UC Surface to get a nice sweet sound for this mic. I mean, I don't have a lot of noise issues in this room, so it doesn't matter too terribly much for me. And I know it does for Jonny, because because of his dysphonia, he has to have a ton of compression, and he also has to deal with noise in his room, like he has fans and stuff to keep himself cool. I don't have that issue in here, so I can keep this room actually pretty quiet, and it's not a problem. But if it was, moving to the new house, that might be an issue. I might have to look at that. See, that's a possibility. Dickory says, more parameters on the fader ports. Well, not really. The fader port doesn't have the vintage EQs and compressors like the Series 3 does. The fader port 16, the fader port 8, they're just control surfaces, whereas the Series 3 mixer has those things on board, via the fat channel. And I'm sure that at some point in the future, they will develop the fat channel even further, I should imagine. It's only logical to me that the fat channel would get some further development down the line somewhere. I don't know when, I don't know how, I don't know anything about it, but I think it is, they developed it from something that was kind of okay to, Studio One 3.5, something that is really, really cool, with the LA2A, the 1176, and then you've got those nice Pultec EQs as well. I mean, really, those are very, very cool. What a great way to just give the fat channel some love, and to actually tie the Studio One fat channel in with the Series 3 fat channel. Just fantastic. So Dickory says, but the fat channel is in Studio One, it doesn't need to be on the interface. Well, actually, it's actually on both, and it's designed to be that way. So, you know, you can if you're using this as an interface, you can record through those into Studio One. So I can record through my vocal chain, which would be LA2A 1176, and you know, some kind of vintage EQ and some you know, maybe a plate reverb and maybe a hall and maybe a little bit of a delay as well. And I can do all of that from the Series 3 mixer straight into Studio One, and that's my vocal sound done. So yes, the fat channel is in Studio One. Yes, it is, but I can do everything that I want to do with the fat channel in the Series 3 console. And you know, who knows what's coming down the line. I certainly don't, but I'm sure there must be. You know, with the way kind of like the Studio Live mixers have had a whole new development done, a whole new product line, and then you know the fat channel gets a whole new development as well. Makes sense to me. Here Creek says, I'm married to the fat channel, just to let you know. The Neve is on every song. Yeah, that Neve is outstanding. It's amazing. Compare it to some other Neve plugins though. Really, really holds its own. I think I missed some comments, so I'm going to go back and have a look, see what I missed. Greg is here. Good to see you, Greg. Thank you for coming in. 10,000 hours, heart, fun, and progress. How do you suggest, say, learning an instrument like bass, drums, or even studio skills for the long run? How to balance best? What if you're learning all of those at once? I'd say that's a challenge, and I wouldn't recommend it. I wouldn't recommend that you decide to learn bass, drums, and a new DAW, and additional mixing skills like, you know, working at a vintage tape machine all at the same time. I would not recommend that. Because you're not going to be able to give quality devotion to each one of those. Now, you're probably asking because in my context, I do practice bass, I do practice drums, I do practice piano, and I do practice my guitar, as you can see behind me, and I do practice my saxophone, and I do practice my mixing all the time. You know, that's what I do. I'm a professional, so you know, I have to keep my professional level chops up, otherwise I don't get gigs. So how do I balance the amount of time to each one? Well, I do a little bit each day. I keep it varied. So if I'm going to allow myself, because you know my professional job, my mixing takes up a lot of my time, so I have to maybe set maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours every day to practice something. So I might have, okay, Monday is going to be bass practice Monday, so I'll just do bass on Monday, and then I'll maybe do piano on Tuesday, and in between all of that, every day I'm doing rudiments and stick technique practice on practice pads every single day. I do that for at least half an hour every day, just to keep my chops up, so I don't get rusty. So I do that for half an hour every day. I do bass practice for an hour. I do piano for an hour. Guitar gets a little bit of love. That gets 20 minutes a day because I'm not quite so good on that yet. So, you know, so I do a little bit often on guitar because it's a relatively new instrument for me. Saxophone, neighbors. I have to get saxophone done in the morning. So I take the kids to school. I come back home. I get the sax out and I play for 20 minutes to 40 minutes. And then I put the sax down. I go do something else. I go work on one of my projects, one of my mixing projects, one of my clients. And I do that, and that'll take up the morning. I get to lunchtime. I have lunch. I come back. I shoot a video. I edit the video. I get that up, and then I'm back to go and get my kids from school. Then I'm back home. I hang out with the kids and go through their homework and all of that before my wife gets home. Then I spend some time with her. Then kids go to bed. My wife goes to bed. Yeah, her job is very demanding, so she goes to bed relatively early. And then I'm back in here, and I'm working on client mixes. And then I'm doing the rest of my practice routine. And that's it. That's how my days work, Greg. That's how it goes. Let's see. What am I missing? Mike says I do an hour on piano a day, then an hour mixing to keep up chops and learning something new. That's great. Little but often on everything that you do. Don't overdo it. I've talked about 10,000 hours here, and that seems like a lot. That seems like a massive, great, big, huge number that you probably think that's just totally and utterly unachievable. You're not expected to do the 10,000 hours in a year or even in 2 years. Not everybody is going to be able to do that. I mean, I forget who it was. Maybe it was you, Dickory, that was talking about 8 hours a day. If you've got 8 hours a day to devote to practice and you're passionate enough and devoted enough, and that's something that is realistic for you, go for it. Do 8 hours a day of mixing. Do 8 hours a day of piano. Do 8 hours of whatever it might be. But really, the thing is to break things down. Even if you're doing 8 hours a day, break those 8 hours down into 8 individual hours. Then break that hour, each one of those hours, down into 10-minute slots. That way, you are going to be far more productive. You're going to learn more. You're going to be more focused on what you learn, and you're going to learn faster. And that means that those 10,000 hours is not just a numeric achievement. It's not like the Everest of, it's not like your Everest. 10,000 hours. Everyone thinks, yeah, I get to the top. I do those 10,000 hours. I reach the top. Hooray! I can plant my flag in the top. I've done my 10,000 hours. No, it's not like that. Just going through and marking off each hour. So I'm counting down my 10,000 hours. I've done an hour today. Okay, great. Next. No, that is going to destroy you. Believe me, I've tried it. Early on, when I was a kid, that's what I did. I'd be like, I have done an hour today. I've done an hour the next day. A couple of weeks down the line, I missed an hour today. I missed an hour yesterday as well. But I did an hour that day. But then I missed an hour that. That's not going to help you. So you need to make each one of those 10,000 hours a quality hour, not just an I can tick that off hour. Make it quality. Make it mean something. Give it objectives. Give it a title. Give it a name. Give it something that is structured, so that by the end of that hour you can say, I have achieved those objectives I set for myself for that 1 hour. Bing! I can justifiably tick that off. Not just as an hour achieved, but as an hour where I have achieved this, and this. Maybe set 3 objectives for that hour. I think 3s are always good. Set 3 objectives for that hour. 1, 2, 3. You get through them in that hour. So you're breaking that hour up into thirds. I mean, you could do it into quarters if you want, but thirds works for me. Break it up into thirds. And then when you get to the end of that hour, you are done, and you can say, I have achieved objective A, objective B, and objective C. And then you move on. So each hour is loaded with content. Each hour is loaded with weight. And each hour is loaded with something to achieve that is absolutely achievable. So that by the time you get to that 10,000th hour, when you get there, you're not just planting your flag at the top of it. You've established a routine. You've established a habit. You've established a devotion. You have established what athletes do. Great athletes, when they perfect their technique and they become the greatest, like Usain Bolt, the fastest man alive, he's not built like a sprinter, for goodness sake. He's built like a long distance runner, and yet he's the fastest man on the planet. Why is he the fastest man on the planet? Because he decided that's what he was going to be. And he orientated every single one of his goals around that. becoming the fastest man on the planet. And he's got long legs. He decided, hey, I've got really, really long legs. Maybe if I can move those really, really long legs faster than anybody else can, I can cover a lot more ground, and therefore I can effectively run faster than anybody else. And that's how he did it. But he's not really built to be a sprinter. But my point is that 10,000 hour thing is not just something that you hang your hat on, you plant your flag and say, I've done it. No, and that's what the second half of my title for tonight is, and forevermore. The point is that 10,000 hours establishes a routine, a discipline, a habit, a lifestyle, a choice that you make that becomes embedded into everything that you are and everything that you do. Your life is orientated around those 10,000 hours, and you keep going. You have mastered your craft, but you keep going because there is always more to master. So there you go. And that could preach. Maybe next time I'm on preaching duties, maybe I should preach that. That would be funny. So there you go. And I've run over by 20 minutes, but you know what? This is really important stuff, because I hear a lot of talk about 10,000 hours. And people talk about, yeah, when you've reached 10,000 hours, you've mastered your craft and all of that. I'm just like, yeah, it's a target, but you know what? I want it to have value, and I want you guys to have value to what you do, so that you stay passionate about what you do, so that mixing doesn't become a chore, so that playing the piano doesn't become a chore, so that writing a song doesn't become a chore, so that by the time you're into hour 9,700, you're only you're only a couple of 300 away from achieving your goal. And it hurts. You're at the 9,700 hour, and it hurts. It hurts because you're keeping on doing it. You're doing it over and over and over. It can become soul destroying, but you're close. But if you do it right from the start, from hour one, if you do it right and you plan those 10,000 hours through, by the time you get to that 9,700, yes, it's going to hurt, because that's what it's like when you run a marathon. You hit the wall and you have to learn how to go through it. And that's what really good athletes do, by the way. People like Paula Radcliffe, she was an expert at it. Mike has just said on Facebook, your stream never lasts an hour. I kind of try to. I try to go midnight till 1 a.m. That's what I try to do. And it's now 20 past 1. So there we go. All right, I'm going to take maybe one, maybe two more questions, and I'll keep my answers short, and then we'll go. Beatrice is applauding me. Thank you very much. Greg says, this has been a great show. I love the deeper lesson stuff and examples. Yeah, well, I guess my live streams, for as much as they are about your questions, and maybe we haven't done so much of this, and I've kind of ranted a bit. Sorry about that. But really, this is something I'm very, very passionate about, and I've been wanting to talk to you guys about. So there you go. Robert Overbeek is here. Good to see you, Robert. Thanks for coming. He says, I do have one question. These past 3 weeks, I've made it a point to write, say hi, and sometimes ask a stupid question, but I've read comments just as bad. Great way of making a person unwelcome. So good luck in the future. Hope you success, but I'll have to say goodbye. Robert, I'm not really sure what on earth you're talking about here. You made a point to write and say hi. I've always said hello, and I think I've answered your questions. If I haven't, then I will right now in front of all 16 people here watching apologize. If I've not got your questions, Robert, I apologize. Please reach out to me via email and we can talk, and perhaps we can do a Skype session together and I can go over some of your questions. I'd be happy to do that at no charge. Okay. So you don't have to say goodbye. You don't have to leave. It's up to you. If you do, I'm really sorry if I've not got your questions. But really, to be honest, the chat is sometimes there is a delay, and sometimes you know, it's a little bit slow, and sometimes I don't catch everybody's question. So, you know, really the important thing here is if I've not asked, and I say this to everybody now, but if in a show like tonight I've not answered your question or I've missed your question, then email the question to me and I will either do you a personal video, which I will email back to you, or I will, you know, I'll type it out in an email and send an answer back to you, or something like that. Or we can arrange to do a Skype session at no charge to you, and we can go over whatever those questions were. I'd be happy to do that. So I do apologize, Robert, if you feel like I've not made you welcome, or I've, you know, not addressed your questions. So I'm really sorry. I apologize. And I hope I can fix that with you. Hope I can make that right. So yeah, send me an email to Jonny at jonnylipshamstudios.co.uk and we will talk and I will answer your question. And by the way, there is no such thing as a stupid question. Okay. So I apologize. Diego says, what are your main computer specs? I don't have a particularly great computer. It's just got 8 gigs of RAM. It's an i5 Windows machine. I'm using Windows 7. Chris says, thank you for your time search advice. Let you know how it goes. Good. Frank is here. Frank Saracino. Good to see you, buddy. He says, Robert Overbeat, JL and people in chat are really nice people. Hope you stick around and give it a chance. Deirdre says, Robert, stay please and don't give up. Thanks for that, Deirdre. Appreciate it. Chris says, frankly, I may be at only 100 hours, got a way to go, and suppose I'll be stinking up the place for a while. Well, you know what? It doesn't matter where you're at, whether you're starting out in the first 30 minutes or whether you are hour 9,998 or wherever you are. You know, we can all learn from each other. I am nowhere near the 10,000 hours, by the way, folks. I have no idea where I am because I'm not marking them off like that, because that really doesn't work for me. But I do practice regularly every day. I'm working on mixes every day anyway. So, and as I say, I've kind of outlined a little bit my practice routine to Greg there. So, yeah, so that's kind of really what I wanted to talk about. And I'm sorry if I kind of ranted a bit. Didn't mean to. So if it's kind of turned folks off, then I apologize. And, you know, if I didn't quite get to as many questions as I could have or should have, I apologize. I'm just going to quickly go back up the chat and see if I can find Robert's question, if he posted one here, and see if I can address it before we end the show. Scrolling back up, I'm not really sure I see it. As far as I was aware, that was Robert's first appearance in the show. So I'm very sorry that he feels unwelcome and that he felt that he had to express his anger. That's a shame. That's disappointing. So, Robert Overbeek, if you're still here, I apologize. As I say, shoot me an email. Anyway, on that note, folks, thank you so much for coming. And thank you so much for listening to my rant. And I hope I did answer some of your questions tonight. And as I say, anyone who feels that they did not get their question answered, Robert, he says it wasn't important. Well, then I don't understand. I'm glad you're here, Robert, and I'd really implore you and encourage you to remain, please. And you know, if you've got a question, ask it. He asked if William Wallace really played bagpipes. Did he? I didn't see it. Uh, William Wallace was a popular folk hero here in Scotland. Whether he played bagpipes or not, I don't really know. I don't think anybody really knows. But he was yeah, he was a popular folk hero here in Scotland. But really, there's not really much to write home about him. You know, if you've seen the Braveheart film that Mel Gibson made a long time, gosh, that's a long time ago now. I'm not really sure when that film was made, but if you saw that film, let's just say that film is less than historically accurate, considerably less than historically accurate. Um, the battle scenes are fantastic, and here's the interesting thing: is that uh, all the extras that are in those battle scenes, um, they were all taken from the Irish Army, and lots of the film was shot in Ireland, not even in Scotland. There were parts of it that were shot in Scotland, but lots of it was shot in Ireland, in the Republic of Ireland. I'm talking about, not Northern Ireland. I'm talking the Republic of Ireland, and they used the Irish Army for battle scene extras for the most part. But yes, it was a long time ago that Mel Gibson made that movie, and not a great movie. Mel Gibson's accent is rubbish. There's a lot of things wrong with that film, and it takes considerable historical liberties with, what's really truth and all of that. Chris said, "Did William Wallace wear undergarments while playing the bagpipes?" Oh, you guys, you're obsessed with this. Robert says, "I just love bagpipes and was told he did, but don't believe it." Yeah, well, you know what? Bagpipes are incredibly popular here. My nephews, Andrew and Alexander, they both play bagpipes and have won lots of awards. And they're teenage kids now, but they've been winning awards for playing bagpipes since they were like 6, 7 years old. And they play. In fact, Andrew, he plays with one of the pipe bands that won the World Championships, which are held in Scotland every year. Mike says, "I had a kilt once, didn't really care for the updraft." I have a kilt. Remember the bagpipe bungee jumper? Yes, I've seen that video. It's hilarious. It's fantastic as well. That takes real talent, actually, being able to hold the bagpipes, to keep the air going through it, and the bag as well, whilst you're bungee jumping. Because when the bungee reaches its full length, it tightens and pulls you back up. How the heck you can hold that thing in your chops and still play it? That's amazing. But yes, William Wallace, whether he played bagpipes or not, who knows? Did he wear undergarments? Probably not, because back then they didn't really. Anyway, in the the early 1300s, they didn't really wear undergarments if you wore a kilt. Did they wear kilts all the time? No, they didn't. Scotsmen only wore kilts for ceremonial occasions and battle dress. They didn't wear kilts all the time. And that continues to be the truth of it today. If you look at the Black Watch, which is our most famous, most battle-hardened, most decorated regiment in the British Army, and they are the Black Watch of Scotland, and they only wear kilts as part of their Class A dress uniform. They wear kilts for ceremonial occasions, for parades, that kind of stuff. Do they wear them in combat? No. They wear combat ODs like every other soldier. Do they all play bagpipes? No. Only only those that are in the pipe bands play bagpipes. So yeah, there's a lot of mythology to do with that Braveheart film. Personally, I hate it. I think it's a hideous film. and it does a great disservice to Scotland and Scottish history, and actually to the history of the United Kingdom, to be honest. So anyway, sorry, Robert Overbeek. I do apologize for not seeing your question, but yes, if you've got any questions related to music production, songwriting, all the way through to releasing your music to the world, let me know. Lu Viti, my favorite folk metal band. Listen to them, bagpipes and hurdy-gurdy and heavy metal. You know what? There's a very, very good band. They are Edinburgh based, and they are I forget what they call themselves. The Red Hot Chili Pipers. That's what they call themselves. And they are fantastic. I've been to see them a good number of times. I am a fan of theirs. I'm not a big fan of bagpipes because bagpipes are fundamentally out of tune because they are sharp, very sharp at the high end, and very flat at the low end. And they've only got a range of about a ninth, I believe. I'm not a big fan of bagpipes particularly. But that said, when the Red Hot Chili Pipers play them, they are awesome. They are a rock band with 4 pipes up front and rhythm section. They are epic, and they play unsurprisingly, they play a lot of Red Hot Chili Peppers music. They are outstanding. Go look them up on YouTube. And I think the highlight of their show is where they blow flames out the tops of the pipes. That's amazing when they do that. So go check that out. So Robert Overbeek, I hope you're not too upset and that everything is good. Anyway, we have been streaming for a very long time. It is 1:30 in the morning here, and I've run well over in this show. So, all right, folks, thanks very much for coming. We've got 12 people left in the room now. And Diego's slammed in the last question. So you don't detune vocals to make them wider? No. I don't. If I want to make vocals wider, I will track them twice. And there's a vocal thickening trick that you can learn from my good buddy Warren Hewitt. He does his in Pro Tools, and my other very good friend David Mood, he shows you how to do that in Studio One to apply the same thing. So go look those videos up on YouTube. You'll find them on the Produce Like a Pro YouTube channel. So go check those out. Sorry, I've got a very itchy nose again. I think it was like this last show as well. All right, guys, I've been talking for way too long, and thanks so much for coming. And I will see you in the week. New videos for the Studio One's from Scratch series coming up this week. I've taken a little break because it's Easter vacation here, and my kids are still off school. So, but yeah, I'm going to find a wee half hour to shoot another one of those videos and get those up because it's been a couple of weeks since I've done that. And I will get more content out to you soon. Sign up for the email list below if you haven't done already. Appreciate it. Go out to the website and keep an eye on the website because, as I say, we are in beta for the website at the moment, and then we're going to roll it out pretty soon, and it's going to have a brand new look and everything. It's going to be epic. You guys are going to love it. Plus, the VIP members area will be live soon as well. That will roll out at the same time as the website. That is also in beta. We've been my good friend Rich Westfall and I have been working very, very hard on it and testing the life out of it at the moment, and it's going to be very, very cool. You guys are going to love it. So as I say, if you haven't already signed up for that email list, sign up below, get yourself on my email list, and you will find out the instant the website, the new jonnylipshamstudios.co.uk website goes live, and it's going to look epic. And I'll maybe even do a live stream, and I'll just give you a tour around the site. All right, guys, take care. Have a good week. See you next time, next Sunday, 6 p.m. Central Standard, summertime, whatever it is. Bye.